Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back. Today's daf is Shekelim Chaf Beis, the last and final daf of Maseches Shekelim. We begin at the Mishnah in the lower half of Chaf Aleph on Beis, actually 3 lines from the bottom. It says in the Mishnah, Basar Kache Kachim Shenitma. Now, we learned this earlier in Maseches Pesachim actually, that when a carbon is pasul and is slated for sreifa, where do you burn it? We learned from a pasuk that you're meant to burn it inside the Beis Hamikdash. Ba'kodesh be'esh tisaref. That teaches us that the sreifa takes place ba'kodesh. So wherever that carbon is meant to be eaten, if it's okay and tar, it's going to be burnt in that same place. It's almost like saying that burning it is an alternative form of consumption. So the carbon is meant to be consumed in the Beis Hamikdash, if it's Kachim Kachim, or in Yerushalayim, if it's Kachim Kalim, like Ishlamim. Therefore, if a psul occurs, you go ahead and burn it in that very same place. What happens if you have basar of a carbon which became tummy? On the one hand, you'll say, burn it in the Beis Hamikdash. That's the proper place for sreifa. On the other hand, how can you bring something which is tummy into the Beis Hamikdash? We have a pasuk, v'yishalchem and hamachane kol tzura v'chol tummy. You can't have tumah in the Beis Hamikdash. So we have a clash between these two conflicting factors. Yeah, you're meant to burn it inside, but you're not meant to have tumah inside. So what do? Basar kachi kachim shenitma. Basar of a carbon became tummy. Bein ba'avatuma, whether through an avatuma, like a nevela, a sheretz, which is a source of tumah. Bein b'vladatuma, whether through contact with a vlad, with a offspring, a second generation tumah, meaning a rishon l'tumah. So now this basar acquired a weaker tumah. So we have 2 scenarios: a stronger tumah or a weaker tumah. Bein b'fnim, bein b'chutz. Whether it happened in the Beis Hamikdash or the tumah occurs outside. So we have 4 scenarios, 4 possible situations here. We have a more severe form of tumah, a less severe form of tumah. And then we have the tumah occurring inside, the tumah occurring outside. So what do? We have actually 4 shittas. What is meant to be done with this basar? Where is this sreifa going to take place? In all these cases, you take the basar and you do the sreifa in the Beis Hamikdash, except chutz mishanitma ba'avatuma b'chutz. If the basar acquired a more severe tumah, the avatumah's type of tumah, it touched the nevela, touched the sheretz, and it occurred outside. So you have 2 factors in the negative. It's a chomer dika tumah, a severe form of tumah, plus it occurred outside. Therefore, you can't go ahead and bring it inside. But otherwise, in any other case, you either leave it or bring it inside to do the sreif. Beis Hillel, the other way around. Hakol yisar v'chutz. In all cases, you do the sreifa outside the Beis Hamikdash. Don't allow the tumah to remain inside. Certainly don't bring it in. Except chutz mishenitma b'vlad hatumah b'fnim. Except when you have 2 factors in your favor. There was only a vlad tumah which generated the tumah, so it's a weaker tumah, and it occurred inside, so it's already in there. It only has a weak tumah. You leave it in there and do the sreifa. So far we have a Shammai who say always inside, except if it was a heavy tumah and it occurred outside. Don't bring it in that case. Going to Beis Hillel, the other way around. It's always going to be burnt outside, except if it occurs inside and it's only a weak tumah. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Shenitma ba'avatuma bein b'fnim bein b'chutz yisar v'chutz. He says it depends on the level of tumah. If it got tummy through an avatuma, whether inside or outside, what do? Yisar v'chutz. Leave it or bring it outside. Shenitma b'vlada tumah. But if it only received tumah from a vlada tumah, in which case it has a weaker level of tumah, in that case, bein b'chutz, bein b'fnim, yisar v'fnim, whether tumah occurs outside or inside, bring it inside, leave it inside, in order to be mekayim, the ideal form of streifas kachim, psulim, which is inside. Rabbi Kiva Omer, he strikes a compromise. He says, you know what, wherever it is, just leave it there. Makim tumasay sham streifasay. Wherever it acquired the tumah, just leave it there, because we have 2 conflicting elements working against each other. On the one hand, you want to burn inside properly. The Makom Esreifas Kachim Psalm is the Kodesh. On the other hand, you may not have Kachim Tameim in the Beis HaMikdash. You certainly can't bring it in. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva says, Sheva al Tasa, just leave it. Be passive. Leave it alone. So if the tumah occurs outside, burn it there. If the tumah occurred inside, burn it there. It's almost like you have the chametz which was found on Pesach, and you go immediately and you burn it. You're not doing even an isser, because it's just involved in burning. You're not holding on to the chametz. Therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva as well, if you got tummy inside, just leave it there, quickly go and burn it, and there's no concern. So just to summarize, we have 4 shitas regarding the basar of kachim, which became tamei. What do? Burn outside, burn inside. According to Beis Shammai, always inside, except if it is a high level of tumah and it occurred outside. In that case, don't bring it in. According to Beis Hillel, it's always going to be burnt outside, except in a case where it acquired a less severe form of tumah from a vlada tumah and it happened inside. Just leave it in there. According to Rabbi Lezer, we have a compromise. Ava tumah is always outside. Vlada tumah always inside. According to Rabbi Akiva, Makayim of the tumah, that's where it's burnt. Now the Mishnah spoke about an ava tumah and a vlada tumah. Well, how do we define that? We have machlekes. Bar kapora amar ava tumah dvar Torah. Ava tumah is referring to a tumah min ha Torah. Vlada tumah midivrayim. When we speak about vlad, it's referring to a tumah midrabanan. For instance, you have mashkin, liquids which are tummy. The Chacham concerned, perhaps they might get mixed up with liquids coming from a zav, which are avatuma. So they applied a severe tumah to mashkin and even allowed it to be matame kli. So suppose the kli became tummy through this mashkin midrabanan, and now the kli will be matame the basar kachim. So we have an example of the basar receiving tumah from a vlada tumah d'Rabbanan. So according to Bakapara, our tumah, the most severe form of tumah is referring to a tumah min ha-Torah, and the vlada tumah is speaking about a tumah d'Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, bein zeh dvar Torah. No, both vlad and av are referring to tumahs min ha-Torah. And the difference is very simple. Ava tumah is a source of tumah, like a sheretz and a vela. Vlada tumah is a rishon tumah, a step down. But they're both within the context of tumah min ha-Torah. So machlekes, according to Bakapara, Ava tumah is dvar Torah, Vlada tumah is tumah d'Rabbanan. According to Rabbi Yehuda, both tumah min ha-Torah of varying degrees and varying severities. V'kashya de Rabbi Yehuda al de Beis Shammai. Now let's take a closer look at our Mishnah in view of these two opinions, of the interpretations of Rabbi Kapara and Rabbi Yehuda. We have a kasha, the Rabbi Yehuda al Beis Shammai. If we take a closer look at Beis Shammai, in view of Rabbi Yehuda's interpretation, we can't figure things out. The Beis Shammai, Amrim, Hakol Yisaref Ifnim, in all cases, you do the strafe inside, except Chutz Mishinitma, Ba'avatuma B'chutz, except where the basar receives his tumah from avatuma, and it's outside when it occurred. So according to Beis Shammai, we're differentiating between the levels of tumah. If the tumah occurred outside, it depends. If it's a vlada tumah, you can bring it inside. If it's an avatuma, just leave it there. Now according to Rabbi Yehuda, both types of tumahs are referring to tumahs min ha-Torah. So what's the difference? Ma bin avatuma b'chutz. What difference does it make if it receives a tumah from an avatum and it occurred outside? In which case you say, leave it out here, don't bring it in, don't introduce tumah to the Beis HaMikdash. Ma bin vlada tumah b'chutz. What's the difference between that and when it got its tumah from a vlada tumah outside? In which case you say, bring it into the Beis HaMikdash and burn it there. What's the difference? Zev v'zeh lo dvar Torah. Aren't they both tumahs min ha-Torah? So why do we have that differentiation between avatum and vladatum? So it's a kasha on Rabbi Yehuda. Va'afilu al de Beis Hillel lo mikshaya. Isn't this also a kasha on Beis Hillel's shita? The Beis Hillel amar hakol yisaref b'chutz. They hold everything gets burnt outside except chutz masha nitma bevlad hatumah b'fnim. Except where it got its tumah from a vlad hatumah and it happened inside, in which case you say, just leave it inside and burn it there. So if it received the tumah from a vlad, we leave it in there. If it got its tumah from an av, we take it out. What's the difference? They're both tumas min haTorah. Ma bein vlad hatumah b'fnim, ma bein av hatumah b'fnim. Zeh v'zeh, aren't they both? Zeh v'zeh lo dvar Torah. So basically it's the same kasha. Rabbi Yehuda maintains that both types of tumas described in the Mishnah, whether it's avatumah, whether vlad hatumah, are referring to tumas min haTorah. If that's the case, how do we understand the distinctions, the lines drawn in the Mishnah? Whether according to Beis Shammai, who says, you know what, bring everything inside, except if it got tummy through an avatumah outside. Then leave it outside. But if it got tummy through a vlad hatumah outside, then bring it in. Av and vlad are both min haTorah. Likewise, according to Beis Hillel, we have a kasha. They say, take everything out, except if it was only nitma through a vlad hatumah inside. But if it's nitma through an avatumah inside, then take it out. Well, both vlad and av are min haTorah. Lo yahavu b'rabbanan. The Rabbanan didn't get overly concerned. The Kabbalah Edom says, Lo yipilpilu chachamim b'divrei Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbanan Beis Medrash didn't get into a discussion, didn't explore further into this matter. Ella al de bar kapara. Rather, they shifted over to bar kapara's opinion, and they didn't really seek to address and to explain Rabbi Yochanan's definition and figure out how it works according to Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. And the Kabbalah Edom says because apparently there is a difference between the two things. Although Av and Vlad are both min haTorah, but of course Av is more chomer. It's a source, it's a self-sourced tumah, whereas Vlad is only a derivative. It's a second generation tumah. In which case we can understand the difference between two things. Why we treat an Av tumah more severely than a Vlad tumah. In any case, the Chachamim did get involved in Bar Kapara's definition. Bar Kapara said that Av tumah is referring to tumah min haTorah. Vlad is referring to tumah d'Rabbanan. Lo yahava b'Rabbanan ella al de bar kapara. They got involved in bar kapara's interpretation, and they explored it, and they asked on it. V'kasha de bar kapara al de Beis Shammai. We have some difficulty understanding Beis Shammai's shita in view of bar kapara's interpretation. Let's see. The Beis Shammai oimrim hakol yisaref b'fnim. They hold that everything gets burnt inside. Chutz b'shenitma b'avatumah b'chutz, except if it got a tumah from an avatumah, and it was outside when it happened. Now, according to Bar Kapara, avatumah is tumah min haTorah. So why is it that it depends where it occurred? We say if it happened outside, leave it outside. If the avatumah occurred inside, you could burn it inside. They're both min haTorah. Ma bein avatumah bein b'chutz bein b'fnim. What's the difference where it occurred? Zev v'zeh lo divrei Torah. Aren't they both min haTorah? Both avatumah outside and inside, lo dvar Torah. So why that distinction? Why, when the avatumah occurs outside, we say leave it outside, and when it takes place inside, we allow it to remain inside? Says the Gemara, begin the Rekiva Amar, because Rekiva in the Mishnah tells us, Makom to Masay Shamteis Refasa. He holds very simple that wherever the tumah occurs, leave it there. Don't change locations. Now, although Beis Shammai doesn't really concur with Rabbi Kiva's approach, Rabbi Shammai holds that generally you bring it inside. You do transfer it from outside to inside to mekayim the mitzvah streifa properly. Rabbi Kiva says wherever it is, just leave it. Rabbi Shammai apparently doesn't hold to that, but to a certain degree, they do agree with Rabbi Kiva. For instance, in the case where a tumah chamura of an avatumah min haTorah occurs inside, in that case they say, you know what, it's there already, leave it there. If it happens outside, don't introduce that tumah to the base. Don't bring it in. You have no right to do that. But if it happens inside, they do agree with Rabbi Kiva's concept in a limited fashion. Wherever the tumah occurs, just leave it there. Meaning, you didn't bring it in here. That's what happened. It got tummy in here, so it's like the chametz on Pesach. Just go ahead and burn it. You don't bring tumah to the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore we do understand Beis Shammai Shita now. What was the kasha? According to Bar Kapara, Avatuma is referring to a tumah min Torah. So how can we draw a line between if the tumah occurs outside, we leave it outside because we say it's too severe of a tumah to bring it inside, but if it occurs inside, we allow it to remain inside? The answer is yeah, because this is where the tumah occurred. You don't bring it in here. Just go be makayim the mitzvah streifa properly, burn it as it is. Continues the Gemara. But don't we have a kasha according to Beis Hillel as well, meaning back onto Bar Kapara, who says that Avatuma means Tumah D'Oraisa, Vlad means Tumah D'Rabbanan. How do we understand Beis Hillel's shita in view of this interpretation? Why? The Beis Hillel Amar Hakol Yisarf B'chutz. Beis Hillel holds everything is meant to be burnt outside the Mikdash, except Chutz Mishenitma B'Vlad Tumah B'Fnim. Except where it only acquired a low-level tumah from a rishon tumah, and it happened inside. So you have two favorable elements. It's a shvacha tumah, it's a weak tumah, and it happened inside. Just leave it there. But if the vlada tumah occurs outside, you can't bring it in. Now, if according to Bar Kapara, what's unique about a vlada tumah? Because it's only a tumah d'Rabbanan. If that's the case, what difference does it make where it happened? If it's only tumah d'Rabbanan, bring it in. Ma bin vlada tumah bein b'fnim bein b'chutz. Zeh v'zeh loy midivremu. Are they both a tumah d'Rabbanan? So why that distinction? Answers the Gemara very simply. Begin the Reb Shimon Amar. Since Reb Shimon holds ma'choloi u'mashke shel mitzvah, the food and the drink of a mitzvah, mishtalchen chutz l'sholish machnes. Not only is the mitzvah meant to be sent beyond all the machnes, machne shchina, machne leviyah, machne yisrael, all the way out of the city. Even as food and drink, which have some sort of mitzvah element to them as well, are not meant to be found within the city. Now the Vilna Gaon and the other Mefarshim attempt to try to figure out what the connection here is and where is this Reb Shimon. There's a lot of discussion about it, but the gist of it is that we do see a concept that even a lenient, a weak tumah is meant to be kept out of bounds. Likewise in our case, even though Vlada tumah is certainly referring to a weak tumah d'Rabbanan, but you have no right to introduce that tumah to the Beis Hamikdash. So the kasha was, if it's only d'Rabbanan, then just as you allow it to stay in the Mikdash if it got tummy in there, why not bring it in from the outside as well? Why not difference according to Beis Hillel? The answer is very simple. Despite the fact that it's a weak tumah, we don't introduce it to the Beis Hamikdash. So let's summarize this sugya. We discussed basar, kachim, shkat. We have several cases. Was nitma inside? Was nitma outside? We have two possibilities: through an avatumah or through a vladatumah. And of course, we just had the two shitas here as to the exact definition. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they're both referring to tumas min Torah, but they're just different levels of tumah. According to Bar Kapara, av means tumah min Torah, vlad is tumah d'Rabbanan. In any case, what do? Because we really have a conflicting situation. On the one hand, we want to do the streifa in the Beis Hamikdash, because that's the appropriate place for the streifa. The place of the achila is the place of the streifa when it's tamei or pasul. On the other hand, you can't bring tumah or allow tumah to remain in Beis Hamikdash. So we have four shitas. According to Beis Shammai, the din of burning kachim b'makam hakodesh overrides, and therefore everything is done inside except for one case where you have the basar nitma outside through an avatumah. Since it's a high level tumah, whether it's because it's just a high level or because av is referring to a tumah d'oraisa, well, depending on how you interpret it. In any case, you have factors working against you. You have factors of chumrah, therefore you leave it outside. According to Beis Hillel, it's the other way around. Everything is taken outside except for one case, where it only acquired a weak tumah, a vlada tumah, and it happened inside, so just leave it there. Rabbi Lezer strikes a compromise. He says, if it's a high level tumah, like an avatumah, you leave it outside, regardless of where the tumah occurred. You leave it or you send it outside. If it's only a vlada tumah, you do the streifa inside. And Rekiva says, Makim tumasai shem streifasai, wherever the tumah occurs, leave it, have it stay put, and do the streifa on site. And actually, the Rambam passes like Reb Shimon, like Rabbi Kiva. Continues the Mishnah, Evari hatamid nisanin michatzi kevesh l'mat. So this is referring to the Hakrovas Hatomet Shel Shachar. They would do the Shechita, they would do the Avodah, and they would dissect the carbon tamid into Eivarim, and they would transport it to the Mizbeach, but they would deposit it on the Kevish, on the ramp, for the time being, and then go to Lishkas HaGazes and say Krishma, etc., and then come back later and put it onto the Mizbeach for the Aktar. Now sometimes there's a concern that perhaps a delay can occur, and by the time they come back, the Karban Musaf is already in the process, and perhaps the Eivarim will get mixed up, and you meant to actually bring the Tamid Shel Shachar before the Musaf, because it's a Tader, it's a constant carbon, it's a more common carbon. So in order to avoid any sort of mix-up and confusion, the Chacham designated a special drop-off place on the Kevish of the Mizbeach, which was designated for the Eivarim of the Tamid. Eivari HaTamid nitanen mechatzi kevish lamata, on the lower portion of the kevish. Kevish was 32 amos in length. So the bottom level, the bottom half, b'marav, on the marav side. So basically on the bottom, it was like a square. The marav, the lower marav portion of the kevish. Shel musaf, the Eivarim of the Karban Musaf, were dropped off in a different location, very close, but on the other side, Nitanim Mechatzi Kevish Lamata, on the lower half of the Kevish, B'Mizrach on the east side. Shorosh Chadashim, Nitan Al Karkev Mizbeach Malamal. The Eivarim of the Rosh Chodesh carbon, they were placed on top of the Mizbeach. The Karkev was this walkway on top of the Mizbeach, and the point was, in order to publicize the fact that it's Rosh Chodesh, in those days it wasn't so obvious that it's Rosh Chodesh. The Edom would simply notice a teeny sliver of the new moon. That would be enough for them to testify that they saw the new Chodesh, and they would establish that it was Chodesh. In order for the word to get around, they have to go and do some publicity. And therefore, this was one of the things they would do. They would put the Eivarim of the Musaf Rosh Chodesh up on the Mizbeach on top. This way it would be noticeable and would aid in spreading the news. Continues the mission with another concept. We learn Masechah Shekelim about Machzah Shekel and time Beis Hamikdash. What about nowadays? Is it applicable now? We know we do a Zecher Machzah Shekel with full Purim, but the mitzvah Machzah Shekel, is it applied today? Says the Mishnah, no. HaShekelim v'Bikurim as well. Einon noegin el Lifnei Habayis. These things only meant to be done when the Beis Hamikdash is standing. Bikurim as well, because Pasuk says you meant to bring it me'artzecha Beis Hashem lekecha. It's something which is unique to a time when the Beis Hamikdash is standing, as opposed to ordinary Trumas and Masters, which certainly apply today. They're not Mizbeach or Beis Hamikdash related. You take it off, you give it to the Kohen, so it even applies nowadays. Aval Maser Dogan, right? The Maser from grain, Maser Behema, Ubechayros. These things apply today as well. Noigen Bein Lifnei Habayis, Bein Shli Lifnei Habayis. It applies whether or not there's a Beis Hamikdash. The farmers know this, right? The newborns are b'chayers. That's why they try to sell each part of the animal to a guy to avoid the b'chayer issue. So l'chatchila, Maser Dogan, Maser Behema, b'chayer apply b'zman hazeh. But when it comes to Machzah Shekel Bikurim, you're not meant to observe it today. What if a person goes ahead with it? Hamagdish Shkelim. He sets aside a coin for Machzah Shekel nowadays. Ubikurim, what happens now? Harei ze kodesh, but the evidence works. The Kedusha is generated. Rabbi Shimon disagrees. Rabbi Shimon Omer Bikurim Kodesh, Einon Kodesh. If one makes Bikurim a Kodesh, it doesn't work. The Mepharshim bring it to Sefta, where Rabbi Shimon dashes the pasuk, Asher Tavi Beis Hashem Lekecha. That Bikurim is very much linked with the Beis Hamikdash. See, unlike Trumas and Masros, which is farm related, you separate the grain, give it to the Kohen, it doesn't really connect to the Beis Hamikdash. But Bikurim, you start the process from the field and end it in the Beis Hamikdash. It's one Masa Hava. You go down to the orchard, you see the new fruit, you tie a ribbon around it, you let it grow, finally you pick it, you bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, you go through the whole procedure, the whole procession, the Kriyas, Parsha, the Hagaras HaToiv, etc. If you send it with a Shliach, he won't say the Parsha. It's one continuous process. It begins in the orchard, ends in the Beis Hamikdash. Then Rabbi Shimon says, if there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's nothing to do here. You can't generate a Kedusha on Bikurim. Now the Tanna Kama apparently disagrees. He holds the Chatchila, of course you don't do it, but b'di'evet, Kedusha is applied whether to Machzah Shekel or to Bikurim. Ezeu Karka v'Mizbeach. We said a worm of the Rosh Chodesh carbon are placed on the Karka. What is that? Amma ben Keren leKeren. Mokem hiluch ragel kehanim. It's a little pathway between the corners of the Mizbeach up on top, and Amma wide. That's called Karka. Says in one Musafir Shabbos, Musafir Rosh Chodesh mikoydem. Suppose you're faced with a choice. You have a worm of the Musaf Shabbos. Suppose Rosh Chodesh falls on a Shabbos. You have two Musaf, and Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. You have both a worm sitting in front of you. Which one goes first? Musaf Shabbos, Musaf Rosh Chodesh mikoydem. Which one has priority? Or B'yom Yasavar, maybe he figured. Musaf Shabbos, Musaf Rosh Chodesh. You have a choice between the two. Musaf Rosh Chodesh koydem. First comes Rosh Chodesh. Why? Why would you think so? Generally, we hold that something which is more tadr goes first. Shabbos is definitely more common than Rosh Chodesh. But he figured otherwise. Why? His power was from, meaning the reason why he thought of the Shaila was from the following halach. Minada, from the halach that we learned in Masechus Rosh Hashanah, regarding the shir that the Levim would sing in the Beis HaMikdash. If Rosh Chodesh falls on a Shabbos, which one precedes the other? Which shir? Each day had a separate shir. Shir shel Shabbos. For shir shel Rosh Chodesh, she faced with the option of doing one over the other. Which one goes first? Shir shel Rosh Chodesh koydem. Rosh Chodesh precedes. So you figure the same regarding the carbon. First you mark the Rosh Chodesh and then the Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, you can't compare. Shanya hitaman. There, by the shir, it's different. There was a special reason for it. The Amar B'chir b'Shem B'Yechnan. Kedei lefarsamai. Uloidia. Shir Chodesh. The home was to publicize. There was a goal, there was an objective to publicize, to mefarsim, to notify all of the fact that today's Rosh Chodesh. That's why the shir of Rosh Chodesh was said first. So how would you do it? Shechel Musaf Shabbos. First, he would do the shechita on the Shabbos Musaf, because that's certainly first. But when it comes to the shir, which was a public scene, that, in that case, they would try to publicize the Rosh Chodesh. V'omer lein shir shel Rosh Chodesh. So first Rosh Chodesh, so everybody hears and sees that today's Rosh Chodesh, and then comes the shir shel Shabbos. So that's a specific thing when it comes to shir. When it comes to actually bringing the Eivarim onto the Mizbech, that's not something so visible. There's no point in advancing the Rosh Chodesh before Shabbos. B'ram hacha. However, over here, Musaf Shabbos or Musaf Rosh Chodesh, when you have both in front of you, which one comes first? Musaf Shabbos koydem. Al shem kol atadir mechaveru koydem mechaveru, because we know that when we have something which is a more common occurrence, more tadir, like the carbon of Shabbos, which is more common than Rosh Chodesh, that comes first. So we did two things to publicize the fact that today's Rosh Chodesh. Firstly, regarding the shir, if Rosh Chodesh falls on a Shabbos, we advanced the shir shel Rosh Chodesh before shir shel Shabbos. Number two, as we learned in the Mishnah, he placed the Eivarim of the Rosh Chodesh carbon on top of the Mizbech, which was a unique location to publicize the fact that today's Rosh Chodesh. But when it comes to actually be makriv the karbanis, Shabbos takes priority. Shekelim and Bikurim v'chu. So we learned that Shekelim and Bikurim are not really applicable today. But if you should go ahead and designate Machzah Shekel or Bikurim according to Tanakama, there is Kedusha applied. He's stuck with it. He has to destroy it, but there is Kedusha generated. According to Reb Shimon, we learn from a pasuk, Tavi Beis Hashem Lekecha, Bikurim is very much Beis HaMikdash related. Nowadays, Bikurim cannot be generated. Hashkalim Kachu, apparently, Machzah HaShekel, even according to Reb Shimon, can be created even nowadays. Meaning, you're not meant to do it, but if one goes ahead and does it, there is Kedusha generated. That's the opinion of our Mishnah. However, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Shimon, he had a different version of Rabbi Shimon's Shita. Bein elu loikachu. Whether Bikurim or Machzah Shekel, there's no Kedusha generated. Now you'll ask me why. Why shouldn't there be any Kedusha? He has a right to generate this Kedusha, not meant to do it, but he has the power to do it. I think more soon we'll explore the reason for this. Tani learned in a Bryce. Ger bizman hazeh. We know that a ger must undergo a three-pronged gerus procedure. Mila, Tvila, and Hazaz, Hartzaz, Damim. We learned this from Bnei Yisrael, who went through this process when we had Matan Torah, we had Mila, Tvila, and Vayizrek, Adam over there. He did the Hakrava, he did a carbon on their behalf. And of course, Kabbalah's mitzvahs. So Bizman Hazem, we don't have the carbon. What is the ger meant to do? He does Mila, Tvila. What about the carbon? Ger Bizman Hazem, Tzorach Lahavi, Kinoi Rivis HaKesef. He's meant to set aside a quarter of a kesef, meaning some sort of value. Money which equals the value of a kan, a pair of birds of oilos, and this will be a designation for his kan. He holds on to it until he's able to bring the carbon. Rabbi Shimon, bitla Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai canceled this process. He was concerned about pitfalls. What does that mean? Mao if kado the Tanya, as we learned. Ein magdishin. One is not meant to be magdish items nowadays. There's nothing you can do with it. Or to commit, to give the value of a person to Beis Hamikdash. There's another form of hegdish. The Vilna takes out these four words because, of course, today we do Tumas Hamas as well. So these things don't apply Bezman. They're not meant to do it. Vim hegdish. But if he did do hegdish. Vim hegdish. Again, we take out these two words. So what do we do with these items? Money or something that he was magdish, a garment, say. Haksus to serve. The garment gets burnt. Habemati akar. You go destroy the animal. Ketzad. What do you do? No b'fanel. Hadelis. You lock the door. If you make some malay and let it die. If you have some money set aside, which is now kaddish, you throw it into Yam HaMelech to allow it to corrode, to disintegrate, put in a place where no divers can discover and explore these funds, which are, of course, hegdish money. In any case, this was the reason why Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai canceled the ger. The fact that the ger would set aside some money, he didn't allow it, because that money, which is sitting around for many, many years, until the Beis Hamikdash B'Karev, can perhaps be misused for other purposes, and therefore, don't set aside any money. Somehow keep record of the fact that you're a ger, and that you have to bring a carbon, which you will bring Meher B'Yimim. In any case, we see clearly that b'di evet it works. Avar v'higdish. What if the ger did set aside money? What happens? Is kedusha generated? Is it chal? Of course it is. Min mad Amar Rabbi Shimon. From the fact that Rabbi Shimon tells us, bit lo Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai ne'atakolo. He didn't want the ger to set aside money because it could create takol and confusion. Hada Amar, this indicates to us, Avar v'higdish kadshu, that if he does set aside, it becomes kaddish. You're not meant to do it. But if he does it, it's kaddish. You're in trouble. You have to take it and put it on Melech. But the kedusha is applied. If that's the case, let's go back to our Mishnah. We learned that the Chatchila, you don't designate Shekelim today. You don't designate Bikurim. But what if he did it? According to Beis Shammai, according to the Tanakama, kedusha is applied. According to Rabbi Shimon, when it comes to Bikurim, the answer is no. According to Masa Shekel, in our Mishnah, we learn that it does apply. It is generated as kedusha. Whereas according to the version now, Gemara, Rabbi Shimon, Yehuda's version of Rabbi Shimon, if one sets aside the Masa Shekel, there's no kedusha here at all. What do you mean? How? Why? Rabbi Yehuda Antudraya, boy, kum Rabbi Yossi. He asked in front of Rabbi Yossi, why the difference? Hoch at Amar, coach. By the ger you say, if he sets aside some money, but the evet it works. When it comes to Masa Shekel, according to that version of the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon holds it doesn't work. Why not? Of course, you shouldn't do it, but if you do it, why doesn't it work? Amalei, he responded like this: you're right. Me'ikar hadin it would work, but the Chachamim invalidated it. It's like a hefker bez and hefker. They took away the kedusha aspect. Why? Because they were concerned about a takala when it comes to Masa Shekel as well, as the Gemara will explain. Amalei Taman, over there by Masa Shekel, l'kachai magdish l'chatchila. The reason why you're not meant to set aside the chatchila Masa Shekel for Misha Mitzvah l'hakir to Mechadash, because as we learned back on that base, you're meant to fund the Korban Tzibur specifically with new funds, with fresh funds. Right? On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they would do the Trumas Halishka from the new money, the new arrival. We learned from a pasuk. Zois oilas chodesh b'chodesh l'chodesh hashana chadesh v'haveh truma chadasha, for the entire year's supply. You meant to do the trumas halishka at the beginning of the year, from the new money. Therefore, we don't set aside money today. Visha mitzvah lahakriv truma chadasha. V'haich havali yishanan is going to be old. So that's regarding Masa Shekel. V'achamai islach lamema. Hayishanahi. Okay, now, regarding the ger, you're telling me, well, there's a problem there as well. It's going to be old money. Well, it's not a concern. L'gabe gdeishois, achirim, v'kinish shel ger, but when it comes to other types of hegdish, like the kan of the ger, and it's a chadasha, hegdish kaddish. Over there, you don't need new funds. When it comes to the kinoy shel ger, this pair of birds, you can set aside money today and use it in 10 years from now. You don't have to have fresh new funds. It's a private carbon. This concept of new funds only applies to carbon tzibur, from a pasuk. But a privately brought carbon doesn't need fresh funds. That explains the halacha. That if b'diavad he was mikadish that money, it's kaddish, because there's no concept of freshness. But when it comes to the machzah shekel, it needs to be fresh money. It says okay, so is really it's really not beneficial to set aside money because you need new funds for the machzah shekel. Fine, set aside your money and leave it until the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, and use it then. So why can't it have kedusha? Says the Gemara, Shem Yibana Bayis Kibbur, concerned that perhaps the Beis HaMikdash will not be built this year. We built Kippur Rishona the way it was way back in the beginning, all the way at the time of the Mishkan, when it was established at the beginning of Nisan. V'titarem trumas halishka min hachadasha bizmana be'echad b'Nisan, in which case the trumas halishka will be taken care of in its right time, first day of Nisan. In which case this money was last year's money and is unsuitable for the trumas halishka. And this fellow won't realize. He'll take this money, which he designated for Masa Shekel, and throw it into the bunch. It's going to get mixed into the rest and ruin everything. This isn't fresh money from this year's collection. It's from the past. Therefore, the Chachamim invalidated it. They used the power of Hefker Bezdin or whatever to remove the Kedusha. And they said, even bid the Yavet, if one sets aside money for Machzah Shekel, no Kedusha is triggered. There's no Chalois of Kedusha whatsoever. But it seems from the Gemara that the concern is only if the Beis HaMikdash is established at the beginning of the year and the Trumas Halishka takes place in its right time. But if it's established any other time throughout the year and there's no Trumas Halishka at the beginning of the year, then perhaps even old money is suitable, because the pasuk tells us be mechalish at the beginning of the year. But if it's not going to be done at the beginning of the year in any case, let's say the Beis HaMikdash was built on Hanukkah, so you just collect funds then, and perhaps even old funds is okay. But here the concern is regarding a specific case where the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt perhaps at the same time as it was back in the Midbar, beginning of Nisan. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, "B'Nisan nigalu, b'Nisan hasidin ligal." It's a chodesh of Zgula. Perhaps it's going to happen the same way again. In which case, they're going to have a proper collection, a proper Trumas Halishka at the beginning of the year, Nisan for the rest of the year. In which case, old, stale, outdated money is not useful, is unsuitable. So because of that concern, Chachamim invalidated this Machzah Shekel, and they said even b'diavad it doesn't work. So that's over there. But by the Kinei Shel Ger, there's no such concern, because you can use old money too. So in that case, if he designates money for his birds, b'diavad it's Kaddish. So how do we paskin? Rav Nuna, Rav Adabar Ava, B'Shem Rav, Rav Nuna, Rav Adabar Ava, both said in the name of Rav. Halacha Reb Shimon, we pass like Reb Shimon. What does this mean? That when it comes to Bikurim, it doesn't work, even b'diavad. It's so connected and related to the Beis HaMikdash. No, Beis HaMikdash doesn't work. When it comes to Masa Shekel, we say b'diavad it does work, in accordance with Reb Shimon's version in the Mishnah. And same thing regarding other types of hegdish, like the money set aside by the ger. Before we say the Hadran, let's just summarize the most recent sugya. So you have several categories. We have ordinary maser, maser behema, bechur. These things apply whether we have a Beis HaMikdash, whether we don't. Chatchila you do it, and the kedusha is applied. What about being magdish, all types of other korbanos? Nowadays, I'm going to do it, the chatchila. But if it's done, it's kaddish. What about bikurim? It doesn't apply today, the chatchila. But if he does it b'di'evet, what happens? According to Tanakama, there is kedusha. According to Reb Shimon, there's no kedusha applied to bikurim whatsoever bisman hazeh, because it's so much migdash related and does not have a kedusha when there's no Beis HaMikdash. When it comes to Masah Shekel, it doesn't apply today. Well, we shouldn't think it's a kaifer nafshe, it's a kapara, and you meant to set aside even today. No, the answer is no. It's connected to the karbanis tzibur, which we don't have today. So you don't designate it today. But the ever doesn't work. Is there a kedusha? According to Tanakama, yes, it's kaddish, and you have to throw it into Yam HaMelech and destroy it. According to Reb Shimon, we have two versions. According to the first version, the kedusha is applied here as well. According to the second version in the Gemara, there's no kedusha whatsoever applied to Masah Shekel on account of that concern that we just elaborated on. Okay, time for a brief chazara of today's daf. We began with the basar of a korban kachi kachim, which became tamei. Ideally, the streifa takes place in the azara. Problem is, it's tamei. We have 4 shitas on how to proceed. According to Beis Shammai, the streifa is always going to be inside, except where it acquired tumah from an avatuma, and it occurred outside, in which case you leave it outside and burn it in. According to Beis Hillel, the streifa is always going to be outside, except where it got a weak form of tumah from avlad tumah, and that happened inside, in which case you do the streifa inside. According to Reb Lezer, if it got its tumah from an av, you do the streifa outside. Got its tumah from a vlad, you do the streifa inside. According to Akiva, makom tumasai sham streifasai. Wherever the tumah occurs, that's where you burn it. We have 2 ways to interpret the words of vlad tumah and avatuma. According to Bakapara, avatuma is referring to a tumah min haTorah, vlad tumah to tumah d'Rabbana. According to Rabbi Yehuda, both are referring to tumah min haTorah. Av is a higher degree of tumah, and vlad is a lower degree of tumah. We proceeded with the Mishnah, which gave us various designated locations, drop-off locations for the ivarim of the karbanos, whether the tamid, whether the musaf, whether the musaf of Rosh Chodesh. And we learned that on Rosh Chodesh, wanted to publicize matters, so they did 2 things. Firstly, the ivarim were placed on top of the mizbeach for all to see, and also, if Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, the shir of Rosh Chodesh is recited before the shir of Shabbos. We learned that some things, like Maser Behema, Maser Dagan, B'chor apply even B'zman Hazeh. Some things do not apply B'zman Hazeh, and to the extent that in some cases, even B'di'evet, a Kedusha is not generated. Hadron Loch, Masechah Shekelim, Mazel Tov, may Hashem be Mezakos to learn many more Masechtas together, with Simcha and good health, with much Hatzlach.
Sis besoy sato yiro hi lo nu was the yiro oh is the no gil no sis besoy sato yiro hi lo nu was the yiro I know you know sis besoy sato yiro hi lo nu was the yiro oh is the no gil no sis besoy sato yiro hi lo nu was the yiro No, you know what is the